Welcome back to an episode of Keeping Austin Queer. This is Sky. We are in season 2 where we are connecting through colorful conversations. And I have a very, very, very special friend, magical friend of mine, I will say. She is a spirit coach, astrology reader, yogi, sound healer, psychic, medium, tarot card reader, and wife. My dear friend, Snowy Rodeo. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Aw, how are you doing?
I'm actually doing really well despite the full moon in Scorpio we had earlier this week.
Yeah.
Definitely, I don't know if everybody knows about full moons, but I'll explain something just briefly. Full moons are all about releasing emotions and letting things go. And this Scorpio full moon was pretty intense, but I feel great.
Awesome. Yeah, I did a little bit of research and I'm still kind of at the beginning of my journey with understanding all of this in astrology, but I have my Master Shri Akashna guy that I follow, and then my Michelle Knight that I do on my YouTube and Instagram. And they all kind of provide two different things, but I learned about this one being where, again, letting go what doesn't serve you in that sense. So I did a write things that I no longer want to do and did the whole burning thing. So I wrote them on a piece of paper, a Post-it, had an old candle that I wasn't using so I didn't catch the house on fire, and then put it in the candle to then burn away and, set the attention and let it go. So did I do that right?
You did it right. Yeah, you're definitely removing that potent energy.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we get into this, for all of my Keeping Austin Queered listeners, we kind of have a little introduction. So I wanted to let our viewers know how we became friends and how we know each other. And then, of course, since this is Keeping Austin Queered, how you identify yourself. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I first met you in a little town called Buda. And
Shout out to Buda.
Yeah. So we were supporting a mutual friend of ours that owns a wellness center where she just creates a lot of magic. And I was hosting kind of like a circle.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And the circle was tarot and sound bath with a little bit of gentle movement. And I was just so pleasantly surprised when you walked in because you just had tremendous energy.
Well, you had me at the gentle movement, and because I am not that flexible, to be honest with you, I'm a little, more muscular and also thick, big bodied. And so I kind of have been before I kind of like stopped drinking was I was super stiff, and now I can have more flexibility. And we'll get into it later, but I've also did a yoga class of yours. And so, yeah, that is cool. That was a magical experience because I felt like I was surrounded by a bunch of women that also had these like cool, unique abilities that I never even heard of before. So,
Yeah, that circle was really unique. So there were many people that traveled from different areas like New Braunfels, San Marcos, Austin, and they all are like practitioners or facilitators in some way, shape, and form of wellness. So we had astrologers, we had other psychic mediums, and that's kind of like the environments and spaces that I like to create, not only for the ones that are curious and starting, but also for the ones that have been doing it a while, because we're all here to like energize our spirits and get into, I don't know, what's called like a little tribe.
Yeah, and like harmony with each other. It's also like you always hear the, women supporting women, but it's just a whole thing because I think people forget though, like, and this is a question I'll ask you later on, but like who at the top gets fueled? You know what I mean? Like there's always the new beginners and there's always like I'm finding my way and whatever, but like who like fuels Oprah Soul? Who fuels LeBron James? Like there's people that all, we're human. We're all just human without the title and all the money. But like, there's people that they need to uplift their vibrations and spirits to do what they do. So yes, that was a beautiful event. And I loved meeting you. So, and we've been hanging out and doing cool things together. So again, I appreciate you being on this podcast. and I can't wait to get into know you a little bit better. But so before we get into all of what you do, we're going to do a fun game that we play here on Keeping Austin Queered, and it's a 3-card pool, which is crazy. I didn't even think about that, but ideally we do that with this fun game from the creators of What Do You Meme? So shout out to hopefully getting sponsorship at some point. But I'll pick 3 random cards,
okay,
and it's get to know you better as a person, and you could pick deep or deeper. So what did you want to go?
So let's start with deep.
Okay. All right. Between us, who has the crazier family? And I'll allow you to pass if you don't want to answer or repick a card, but
it's definitely me.
I would assume so.
And also my family members, I know. And also my family members do watch my platform, and so they'll see it too.
Oh, okay. I love that. Hey, I'm the same way. Like, it's definitely me. All right. What is something you do regular? Oh, wait, I just picked it for you.
Yeah, let's go with it. Deeper.
Okay, deeper. What is something you regularly do regularly? Oh, this is so good. What is something you do regularly to nurture positive feelings within the relationship? And I guess it could be romantic or a friend or whatever, but that's cool.
You know, I think that's an ever-go flowing process, because sometimes, you know, we find ourselves in places where we're too busy or we don't have enough time. And so I really focus on the discipline and the rituals on my aspect. Like every day there's a ritual where I'll either move my body gently or, you know, drink matcha and pull some cards. And that kind of gives me a little bit of clarity in my head to be focused for the day, have energy, and then show up for my partner. But I'm learning.
Oh, wow. So it's just like start with yourself first, because ultimately, how can you love? RuPaul's famous saying, how can you love someone else if you don't love yourself?
Well, that's exactly it. And so the type of work that I do, which is kind of hard for any of my partners in the past to understand, is that I do energy work. And so energy work can be very draining. It can be very limiting, you know, and so at the end of the day, when my partner and I do meet up, there's not a whole lot of energy left there. So if I skip my ritual or my routines, or I don't move my body, work out, then I'm collectively like trapping all of the energy that I've had throughout my sessions, throughout, you know, just navigating life. And so just being a little bit more mindful that your partner is your biggest fan, your biggest supporter, and you have to like sprinkle in moments where you're spending quality time together.
Wow. Very well answered. And I honestly, that just opens up something else of just like, again, I clearly assume that you're giving so much energy in these readings and everything that you do for people. And I would assume that it takes away some of your energy and depletes that tank, because then it's an exchange. And so you have found ways to have coping mechanisms and heal yourself through that and the work that you do. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. One more. Deeper.
Let's go deeper.
Okay. What is the most important lesson you learned as a child? That's a deeper one.
Deep one.
That's
okay.
a deeper one.
It's interesting because my lessons started pretty early in life. I started becoming intuitive when I was 4 years old. And I think that many of my family members that really didn't understand where this was coming from, aside from my mom and my dad, it was just this feeling of not ever feeling like I fit in.
Okay.
And I would say as a teenager and as an adult, I rebelled because I just felt very misunderstood. And so the lesson that I learned as a kid was, during moments where I did feel support, I just stuck with those types of people. And they helped me navigate through some of my challenges, again, as an adult. And they're still with me today. So just being able to have a cheerleader on your side, whether that's one person or two, really encourages you to follow your path.
Wow. Well, and this is a great segue into the beginning of our topic. But I think it goes to show, I mean, most of our community in the LGBTQ plus feels that way at a very, very young age. And you didn't identify yourself, did you? I forget.
No, I just identify as she.
Okay.
I'm married to a beautiful soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I very much support the LGBTQ community. In fact, my first tarot deck that was a co-creation was one of my dear friends who owns a company called Apothic, who considers himself gay. And I donate a lot of money to transgenders because I want them to go through their surgeries and their procedures, and I want them to become comfortable and confident.
Oh, love that. Big hug. Well, thank you for sharing that. And now let's get into the story time here. So you said 4 years old, and now you have 20 plus years of experience in this. Wow. I mean, obviously, even plus being a lot more, but you said 4. Can you give us any insight on, I guess, how you came to understand what was happening, and when you decided to accept and take ownership in it and decide to, not go against the grain and ride into your purpose? I think it's also, very important what you mentioned at such a young age that I think will help also our community in the LGBTQ is that, finding who cares about the haters, find the 1 to 2 people that love and support you. It doesn't matter about all the other people who don't, and ride in that space to carry you through. So.
Yeah, well, currently I'm mentoring a couple people that didn't have my background. And so kind of going backwards, I was lucky enough to have a mom who was into this, right? As a small child, she was a psychic medium. She was into crystals, into Reiki. She was an active practitioner, a little bit scared of her own gift and talents. And I think that this is something that is not only genetic, but it's also the more you learn and the more you embrace, the better you become. And so I started getting these sensations when I was 4 years old, channeling in my grandmother from my dad's side who passed. And I would go into the room and say, "Oh, grandma has a message." And, just seeing everybody's eyes looking at me like being in the woods and seeing a fox's eyes. That's how I remember. And it wasn't until 9 years old that I got actually gifted by a neighbor my very first tarot deck that I use today. And so we sat with the cards, and without reading a book, she kind of sat with me, kind of like art therapy, and told me what I felt and what I saw.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you mentioned obviously your mom and your father being connected. Was there have you gone back into your lineage and find out it was, other ancestors, or it was kind of like a lineage of this? Because typically that seems to be true in some cases. Did you?
Yeah, for sure. So I know on my mother's side, my grandfather and her, I believe her 2 brothers are really connected in different ways. And also I just recently found out that my dad has some indigenous in his family. And that's been super cool to understand. Unfortunately, at my age, I'm just going to say it. I'll be 45 this year. I am 44.
Yeah, own it.
I have a lot of family members and people that would know that information that are, unfortunately deceased. But it's one of those things that I hear about it often between my dad that, my mom's was really from an early age, because they met in high school, has always been very psychic and very intuitive. And I wish I was there with her during those times.
Yeah. Well, she's with you now.
Yes, in spirit.
In spirit. So that's cool. And so one common thing that we found out is that, I'm from Florida, and I've said this on my podcast many times, Ocala, Florida, which crazy story here, and I've shared this with you before, but just for the audience, is that my mom and my sister used to drive over, I think it's an hour and a half away from my hometown to go to this city. What's the name of it?
Casadega,
Florida, which is a very, is it the
it's called the spiritual capital of the world.
Spiritual capital of the world.
What? That's crazy, right?
It's so crazy. And my sister still goes, loves it, and is, connected. She actually has her own thing going on, with spiritual and, learning, having a gift and trying to figure out what that gift is. But she has had many of readings there, and many of readings that told her about her life that all came to fruition or true. she knew the baby before the first baby even happened, all these sort of things. But I think me and my family specifically, I don't know, we were always drawn into it. And so it was a compass for me because, I went to church and I'm, religious in the sense of like God and bigger than, created than, and all that sort of stuff. And like I say, I believe in it all. Like I don't count nobody out, but it's always a great compass for me to have that because my parents weren't really like very big into parenting advice. And so when I was kind of like living this life on my own per se, I would rely on, psychics and intuitive guides to help give me that message to push me forward and help me know if I'm on the right track or not, so crazy little thing there. So check that place out. It is really cool. Very powerful. I can't wait to go back there and experience it myself. So, now when did you decide to make so you've accepted this, you have your abilities, you're kind of fine tuning your craft. When did you decide to make this actually like a career?
That's a really great question. When I was 9 years old, I started bringing tarot to school and I got in trouble. And my mom took...
No way.
Yeah, no, totally. She took the stack of, 78 cards, wrapped it in a silk cloth and hid it from me, which I eventually found. And I was just always that child, always curious, rummaging through things, trying to discover. And when I found it, I kind of put it on hold until I was in my 20s. I followed and pursued a career in fashion, just following my mom's footsteps because she was a designer for Liz Claiborne. And she just, from a very early age, on top of her psychic ability, just had this like unique artistic craft of like making things beautiful. And so I pursued a career in fashion, but I was doing tarot on the side. And then it wasn't until I started working at psychic festivals that I started meeting my mentors and working alongside really powerful educational people, in which I had like 3 or 4 mentors at this point that have continuously taught me how to heighten my craft and my abilities.
Wow. Okay. And so you kind of did follow a little bit in your mom's footsteps though, so were you young and watching her kind of did she ever do her, psychic medium work in front of you? And you were just kind of like, oh, this is so cool. That's my mom. And I, kind of have like tether to that experience.
Yeah, I feel like my mom hid a lot of things. I don't think she was as bold as I am. And I say this from her own words because I connect with her through the spirit realm. That she constantly says, I can't believe you're achieving this. I can't believe you're doing this. This is something that I wish I could do. Right. Like the international retreats or all of the events, the conventions, the workshops, the leading, the training. She never got to that level. She's living
through you right now.
100%, yeah. Okay. So what she did was always kind of behind closed doors or secretive or, when she was doing readings in Casadega, she had her clients. They knew who she was. It was very private. I would say after her passing in 2023 is when I'm really coming uncaged, right? And just that. Like telling my story and also telling the story of how I learned all of this.
Yeah. And being in your truth and owning it and walking on that purposeful path and something that she was kind of, hiding, but you're doing it with the support of your mother. So she passed away, but you channel your mom, and she's a guide for you through this process, And so I was very, honestly, so we were friends, and then I was like, okay, I love this type of stuff. And so I just said, hey, listen, I want to get a reading by you. So I firsthand have had a reading by you. And I will say we did it virtually, which some people are like, oh, does it work the same virtually or not? I always thought, okay, I'm a big energy feeler. And I wanted to be in the energy and just kind of see, like what's up the sleeve, I guess you would say, right? There's nothing. And you were just such a big ball of bright light, and you're just the way you carry yourself, your look. And what we did a quick, I guess, reading, but you were like, hey, listen, I really want to do it was the beginning of the new year.
Yeah.
And you want to do a month to month kind of like what to be on the lookout for, which is right up my alley, which I highly recommend anybody to do during that time, or honestly even now, because I recorded it, and then I go back each month to see what I need to kind of have a one up on and to prepare myself, because the craziest part, which isn't crazy, is that every month has come true to what you said. So validation. And, there's positive months and there's rocky months and there's not so positive months. So it wasn't set up, obviously, to be like, oh, this is great and your life is great. And all, no, I was like, I went through the emotions of it. But why I, again, find it so meaningful and purposeful is like, if someone could give you the password to something to help you live a little bit of an easier life, and when to move certain pieces of the chessboard at certain times to win the game, would you take that? Yeah. Absolutely. Full body chills right now saying that. That is so true. So that is the purpose in that. But so I appreciate your talent. And I'm still obviously a whole year to go through. So I can't wait to the very end to say, wow, this is really where we're at. But okay, now thanks for sharing about your mother. So can you explain what a psychic medium is? Is it 2 words, 1 word? How does that work?
I would say it really stems from intuition. And everybody has access to their own intuition. And sometimes what happens through like childhood or upbringing or just society, we tend to lose that, right? Or we tend to get misguided. And I'm here to tell you that you can tap into your intuition at any time, at any age. And the psychic medium is one who channels not only messages, but also there's this intuitive language that we call like the clairs. And so there's the clairsendents, who are those that actually feel. There's the clairvoyants, who are those who actually see.
Okay.
There's the clairaudience, which are those that can hear. And there's also the claircognizance, which is all about the knowing. And so,
wow, I've only heard of clairvoyant, probably would be the obvious one, like Tyler the Medium type of thing, right?
Yes.
But there's all of those.
There's all of those. And so, and those are just like categories. So within the categories, there's also minor categories. And so we really start with the psychic mediumship to discover, like, where are you at in your journey of intuition and inner knowing? And then even if you're at the level of like, I do automatic writing, I channel in with spirits, I keep dream journals and logs of what I'm getting. I think overall what it is energy sensing.
Yes.
Right? Because you can walk into the room and be like, this energy feels terrible, or this energy is like so uplifting.
Yeah.
And I like to use the example of, how do you feel after you've hung out with friends, or how do you feel after you've hung out with family? And sometimes what you don't notice is that you're putting yourself in situations that are lowering your frequency and your vibration, instead of using your intuition to be like, I don't know if this is the right setup for me.
Wow. Okay. And right now everybody just uses it as a common term, like good vibes or high vibes or whatever. Yeah. But that's kind of a part of, I guess commercializing in a sense, where we all have that. It's just getting deeper to that. Wow. Okay. So, you mentioned, so you obviously do tarot and tarot cards. Now, what's the difference between all these decks? So there's tarot card, angel card, oracle cards. How does one find their cards if they want to get into tarot? But also when doing a reading, does that match what, like, hey, I want to learn about like career, wealth, health, or whatever. Does each card play a certain pick up on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just recently went to a really amazing thing called Witch Fest. And there was a speaker there that kind of told us of his journey, and basically like his mentor, who, is from Salem, who is now 90 years old, actually doesn't need to use cards. And I find that so amazing, because I don't technically need to use cards, but I think the audience and the people that are doing the reading like to see the cards. Visual validation, connection. Yep. And so to answer your question, tarot has 78 cards, and they're divided up by the major arcana and the minor arcana. The major arcana are going to be the 24 cards that basically are like the big themes, right?
Okay.
Like the Emperor, the Empress, the Moon, and then the minor are going to be the details. And what's really interesting about that is that they're all within certain classes and categories. So Cups is going to be about relationships and love. Swords is going to be, Swords is going to be about trials and tribulations. There is Pentacles, which represents finances and abundance. And I'm forgetting one, let me think. And Wands, which represents career, path, and journey.
Okay.
And so once I look at the cards and I'm getting messages from Spirit, which by the way, I do have to channel in for every session with sound and smell. I'm able to like navigate a story, and everything is based on past, present, and future. And of course the future hasn't happened. So it does create some clarity and some insight on whether or not you want to continue on this path or make some like big changes. I like to celebrate my wins by noticing when people like quit their job or, get out of a shitty relationship.
That was me.
Well, yeah. And it's like, you want to empower people to create change, to create something that's going to be more in alignment with their actual visions, goals, and purpose. And so, of course, I'm not here to like provide negative messages or to force anyone to do something. But the key is that it's unbiased. It's not coming from a friend. It's not coming from a family member who is constantly wanting to keep you small or protect you. Mm-hmm. And then with oracle cards, they're actually themed cards. So
what was the first one again? That was
tarot.
Tarot,
yeah.
okay.
And tarot, just so you know, started in the early 1800s.
Yeah, it's been around for how long? Yeah.
Rider-Waite is the first deck, and Pamela Coleman, fabulous. She was an illustrator, and she kind of helped them shape up the deck that we use today. Mm-hmm. And tarot cards are based on different artists and themes as well.
Yeah, they're very cool artistic wise.
I actually own over 180. So I'm kind of a hoarder when it comes to that. Plus people that love me know that you can always gift me a deck and I will use it and
love it and cherish it.
Yes.
And by the way, everything we're talking about now that you say this is like in history this isn't brand new. Anything we're talking about today is not brand new.
No.
I mean, it goes back to years and years and years of people connecting and intuition and all these sort of things. So, okay, cool.
Yeah. And speaking of like going back, like in the 1700s, the French would use playing cards, and they were a little bit wealthy. So they'd get together kind of as a social gathering, and they would talk about like ways of creating finance and building relationships. And so that's where it kind of started. And here we are today where, if you happen to actually have a queer deck, which I love very much, I was gifted it by one of my friends. And so there's all these really cool themes and how you would personally want to resonate with it. Oracle cards is a little different. It could be anywhere from 44 to 54 cards. There's not a specific amount of number, but it is, again, themed. And most of them come with a book that kind of gives the descriptions and also tells you kind of the artist's interpretation. But some of the oracle decks just have like mantras and affirmations. Okay. So perfect example, I teach yoga at 3 studios, and I recognize that not everybody and anyone is into this, but I feel comfortable and okay because I do have another company called Psychic Yoga. And sound, I feel okay handing out oracle cards with affirmations and special messages about the moon or chakras. And then after class, I ask people, how does this resonate? And it always builds up like really creative, cool conversations amongst each other.
Every time I've been to a yoga class of yours and have experienced that. And I just love how it opens people up for conversation, and it's just another way for us to connect a little bit deeper. So mantras, quotes, all the sort of things. It's like a nice icebreaker into that. Yeah. Okay. And then, so as far as when somebody comes to, buy a reading and do a reading from you, how do they need to come with, like, I'm sure that all that they want to know, right? It's the career, the finance, the love, the relationship, life path, and purpose. Is that something that they should... Is it something that you automatically do for them? Is it something that they need to have prepared for? Like, I guess, how do you navigate through a reading?
That's a great question. I usually come into the readings with an open mind, and I invite the person that's getting read to also come in with an open mind. Every reading is very unique and very different. Some people have like a list of questions that they want to go through. Some people want to channel in their, their spirits or their ancestors. Some people just need help and clarity. So I always start with grounding and meditation, and then I ask them, what would you like clarity in or on? And I give them examples of, what are my strengths and what I'm capable of doing. And then I kind of go into the reading thinking, I'm going to do it all. I'm going to tell, if it's 30 minutes or an hour, I'm going to try to fit as much as possible so that people leave feeling like they've learned something about themselves, or they're encouraged to take something and implement something new in their life.
Okay. And so you kind of hit on it. I always came to any reading thinking and feeling that obviously you're channeling and connecting someone to receive this message, but I am also inviting my connections, my ancestors, my guides, because I wasn't connected at the time to receive that and get that. So I was like, well, they know me well, and you're the source. So that is true. That does happen and works, that way, that how I was wanting it to.
I think the most draining experiences for me, and I've had them before, obviously, are those that come into the session with a lot of expectations. And they also come into a session with a lot of questions. So they don't let that free-flowing experience come through. And there's a lot of pressure as a psychic medium because, this is a gift and a craft that with years of experience, you feel confident and okay with the smallest message or the biggest messages. But when somebody comes in with a lot of expectations, it puts a lot of pressure and a lot of suppressed energy into the reading. So those are not my favorite.
Yeah. Is there anything that you don't do that people want you to do, or or is there anything like you talked about how they should come in? Is there, and then obviously don't come in with a bad attitude or bad energy, but is there any like do's, don'ts?
For me, it's definitely bad energy or forced energy. If you don't want to get a reading or you're scared, don't attempt to reach out or don't sit in the chair, because what you're going to hear is authentic, it's real, and people may not be ready for that. But also things that I don't personally do are spells. I don't do cord cutting. I don't bring in negative energy, and I don't necessarily focus on witchcraft. I have plenty of sources and plenty of friends that do. It's just not the energy that I want to invite into my sessions. Right.
Okay. Love that. And so, it's a positive experience that you have to come in with a positive mindset, just like anything else in life, right? Well, you mentioned that you have your own company. And what's that called again?
So I have two companies. One is called Snowy Rodeo Tarot, where I provide tarot cards, and I can pretty much travel anywhere you want. And I can either do readings at your wedding, parties, big events,
small events,
international events. And then it wasn't until 2023, I had been working prior to that at yoga studios, just kind of as help doing readings. And I had a very aha moment that I needed to take my yoga teacher certification and build my own business and my own brand, which is called Psychic Yoga and Sound.
Yep.
And that's where me as a medium, where I'm channeling the energy of the room. I'm incorporating astrology, all the woo, science, philosophy. And it is such a beautiful practice, Sky. Like, I literally enjoy creating the playlists, creating the movement, and also, sprinkling in a little bit of that magic and sound. And since I started the business in 2023, it has taken over, really.
Yeah. And again, I was able to be a part of one of those. And the biggest thing, like you say, I've experienced this with you a few times, where you have said that I was tired. I was feeling like my energy was kind of drained from my day. And it's kind of like things we've done at the end of the day. But with your sound bath, the collaborative energy of everyone and the movement and everything, it was just like, okay, I'm back up. Like as if we took a Red Bull and we're just going and we got these wings and we're flying. And so I feel that way, like I love, again, I am not a super yoga fan. I'm learning to love it, and I'm getting more comfortable in my body with those moves. And you do, what is it called? You're like, oh, if you can't do the move, you like variations of the move, which I love. And But the sound bath part, oh, that's just like an experience that I've gotten into more recently for myself. And I've noticed that there's different variations of sound baths, right? But man, talk about like recalibrating your vibes, your frequency, and that the one that sounds like an ocean. Like
Yes.
I'm like all about that. So yeah, there's magic behind it for sure. Anything about sound baths?
Yeah, actually, I have this saying that, music is medicine. And what's really cool about it is I've always wanted to be a musician, but I never had like formal training until my sound bath healing training, where I learned how to play the crystal bowls connected to the chakras, and my Venus gong, which will rock your world, and the ocean drum and the chimes. But yeah, I think that it's important to know that sound has like the highest frequency and it's transferable. So even while I'm playing the music is filtering through me and into the room, and it's just keeping people in places of high vibrations, but also allowing people to really lean into the crying part, to the emotional part, because yoga is not just a practice of movement. It's a practice of meditation and just really sitting in the darkest times. And so, yeah, there's a training coming up. I believe it's in June or July that's a sound training that I encourage anyone and everyone to do. Yeah,
those sound bowls are, wow, they're magical, and the vibes that come off of them, and the gongs, and like what you mentioned, like that's just so powerful. And I definitely want to, I've started inviting more friends to the ones that I go to, typically certain times. And is it a full moon sound bath? And there's variations of sound baths you could do. So now, energy, crystal healing, and spiritual coach. Tell me more about that.
So as a child, my mom had crystals all over the house, and she would pick a purple one up and say, "This is amethyst. This is for your intuition. This is rose quartz. This is for love." And
so like a dad with a boy with dinosaurs. Like this is like this kind of
And so I just have always been around crystals, but crystals are not just like pretty things with beautiful names. They're actually like energy sources.
Yeah, I want to know more about this.
Yeah.
Clearly I have some. Crystals have become more popular now, and so what is the story behind those?
So crystals are natural. And so, for instance, you go to Brazil, and Brazilian quartz or Brazilian amethyst comes from Brazil. And what they are is they're in caves, crystal caves. And so the miners go in there and they kind of chip at the wall and create clusters and chunks. Some of them polish it. But, you got to think about those as portals, right? Or vortexes.
Okay.
Some of the most healing places all around the world are because crystals are either underneath the ground or in caves or in areas where we don't normally see.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's why they're so powerful and intense. And something that I encourage people to do during new moons and full moons is to cleanse their crystals by putting them outside in the moonlight or the sunlight.
Okay.
Because crystals are like little children. They're like little people that take on all the energy. So if you're using one for protection, this poor black tourmaline crystal has had all of the bad negative things that were supposed to come your way. And you have to recharge it so that they get more energy to continue working with you.
So full moons and
new moons,
mm-hmm. Recharge your crystals. Okay. Now, so they absorb energy. Do they give energy?
They do both.
They absorb and give.
Yes.
And how does each crystal, as beautiful they are in colors and shapes, and I mean, I guess this is down history, but like, have their name and have their functionalities and abilities within the crystal, like, how do you also like pick a crystal?
That is such a good question. So I don't know how to answer how the crystals got their name, but the way that I like to interpret it is really like based on color. So I identify with like the chakra, the rainbow. So, the rainbow of the chakras are connected to like your roots, sacral, solar plexus, throat, heart, all the rest. There's actually more than 7, but we here like to focus on the 7. And so when we talk about what you need for your voice, you're going to want to pick something blue for your throat chakra.
Okay.
When you want to have abundance, you're going to pick something yellow or green because that's tied in with money and happiness. So there's that.
Okay.
But when it comes to, so that was the name. When it comes to knowing which one to gravitate towards, you could do one of two things. The first thing that I like to do is just go into a crystal shop. If you have senses, which I feel like everybody does,
Correct.
you're going to feel a little excited and overwhelmed. It's like being in a candy store and being like, hey, I have a bag of candies. What am I going to put in this bag? And so the crystals are going to call you, right? They're going to gravitate. You're going to see something sparkly. You're going to see something oddly shaped, something little, something big, and then just go for it. And then what's really cool about the synchronicity is once you Google it, which is part 2, you will see, oh, I'm gravitating towards this, black crystal because I feel like my work's really heavy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So your subconscious and conscious are both connecting automatically the minute you step into the room.
And like who and what you need, and what energy you need it to absorb, and what properties that you need to have it fulfill your life or help you in your life or give you the energy that you're looking for or need.
Yeah, and people that work at the crystal shop are highly knowledgeable. It's their job. It's their being. They love being there. But it's always funny. I love seeing a lot of psychics and a lot of people that I hang out with. I mean, we don't have enough fingers for these rings, right?
Right. And necklaces and headbands and everything. I know. It's so true. They're beautiful. I honestly got my second round in crystals after I purged a few that were not legitimate. So it is important that you go to an authentic crystal store. There's definitely a handful in Austin. And I do the same thing. I just walk in and say which one is like gravitating, I'm excited about and gravitating towards. So, all right. Now, astrology reading. Now, have you done any of the birth charts, natal charts, or any of that stuff? You've gotten into that before?
I have. I actually did study it and got certified to do natal chart readings. I don't do them often because it takes me about 3 hours to create someone's actual footprint. But it's a lot deeper than tarot in the sense that these are things that
it's like the blueprint of your life.
Yeah.
How do you describe that? And is birth and natal the same? Is that two different things?
So there's a couple things. There's your when it comes to astrology, there's your sun, moon, and rising.
Okay.
Your sun sign is going to be
Taurus.
How you happy birthday. It's how you identify yourself. It's self, right? You've always known you are a Taurus. But as you get older, you're like, there's parts of me that don't feel like 100% a Taurus. And so your moon is the zodiac sign that is connected to your emotions and how you feel. And then your rising is kind of like your superpower, like what you're trying to create in this lifetime. What's really cool about the natal chart, which is a big circle with 12 different houses, is it kind of dissects pieces and categories in your life within the 12 zodiac signs that really encourage you where to put your focuses when it comes to career, relationships, finances, community.
Oh,
yeah. So I know that you're getting yours done soon. Spoiler alert.
I know, spoiler alert.
By one of our friends.
From another episode of an amazing baddie that I'm going to have on our show here in Austin. I am gearing up to have one of my birth charts or natal charts done with her.
She's awesome.
And she does something even cool, like medically. But we'll save that for the other episode. But yeah, you introduced me to her, and I'm excited to have her. So awesome. Okay. Now, do you teach any of the things that you've learned over the years, or
I do. I have a virtual intro to tarot session that's on my website. I also am pretty active in the Austin area. I have an office.
You're very active. You are very active.
Thank you. I do a lot of cool stuff. I would say some of it's free, some of it is a paid ticket. I try to have a mixture of both in order to provide, this for the community. But I have a space called Blue Suede in Austin, Texas. It's a shoe store wine shop. You should definitely check it out.
That was a cool spot as well. Yep.
And I like to have a lot of workshops there, a lot of community gatherings where I get anybody interested in specific topics. And month by month, I try to create different themes like awakening your consciousness or collage art, tarot, anything that kind of helps people explore their mind and get really in tuned with how they're feeling and ways on expressing that.
And one thing I'll highlight is that you are really great at being in the community, bringing people together in the community, And you just have such a big bright aura around yourself when doing that. And I think that everything that I've done, that I've been invited to and showed up for, I feel like not only myself, but every person, and it's typically a smaller group, intimate, space, that they've walked away was like, wow, this was one of the best events that I've attended to. I felt like I didn't owe another, boring, meetup or da-da-da-da-da-da. And they walked away feeling so full and like confident and expressive and sharing business and contacts and all those fun things. And also that blue suede shoe store, like, hello, cool concept. It's a female store, so ladies hit it up, but it's shop and for shoes and drink wine. There's like literally like a cute little wine bar in there. So cool space to check out. Also, we're going to highlight, and this finally goes into it, is that you're nominated for 2025's Best of Austin Psychic and Tarot.
Yeah, the Austin Chronicles. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing. This is an honor.
Huge.
It's a big deal, because I've only lived in Austin for 6 years, and I've been doing this again for over 26, but the people that are on that ballot are very good at what they do. And, it's always that thing like, oh, I'm going up against my friends or people that I love, but it's a small community.
Right.
But Austin's a big community. And so being a finalist for the Austin Chronicles Best of is just kind of, I don't know, a little bit affirmative that I'm being recognized because, I don't have billboards. I don't advertise. I don't DM. I don't try to get people to or force people to come see me. But it's really, really nice when I am being referred to as word of mouth, or even that such a highly successful magazine company is like, yeah, we're just going to put you there as part of a finalist.
Yeah, that is huge. And again, it's a big applause to honestly showing who you are in this community and growth. And the one thing I will also say, and again, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass. Like, you know me, I'm 100% like real and honest and authentic. So I hope I don't sound that way, but I'm just speaking from the heart, is that I referred, a girlfriend of mine, a few people to you that's come to you multiple times. And then we found out another friend that uses you and all these sort of things. But you do it in such a very organic, non-pushy way, and you meet people where they are. And that is very, very important in the work that you do. And the other thing, too, it's like I would say that this isn't, this is your work of line. So, like, I think also people, like, don't be, like, thinking that everything of service of people of intuitiveness and psychic and tarot and all these kind of abilities is free. It's an energy exchange. So, like, respect that for the business that it is, it's healing, just like you would go to a doctor or get a prescription or holistic healing anywhere else, so.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to do what's called intuitive listening. And usually the way the conversation really starts is when someone is saying something or what they need clarity, I always repeat it back to them. And I'm like, this is what I'm hearing, you know? And so it makes people feel very seen. Because oftentimes, you can vent, you can see a therapist, you can talk, but you leave with the impression of like, I feel sad, or I feel like lower than I did when I entered the experience. And now I'm sitting here and don't know how to integrate it, where, with me, it's like high vibes. It's like, yeah, you're probably not doing the right thing. And maybe you've had a hard past, but like, let's work with that.
Yeah. That deserves a, okay. I love that so much. Okay. Now I wanted to know, what's been your experience as far as people reaching out to you? I guess we kind of discussed that, helping others, building your business. I guess we kind of covered that part. But what would you like people to know who are interested but are nervous or skeptic about it? Like that, clearly there's going to be more than, we live in the beautiful city of Austin, where it's definitely more, this whole hello, keep Austin weird, keep Austin queered. So what would you say to those people that are like, you know what? I've seen a friend, I've heard a friend, I've scrolled on my Instagram, but there's probably like, I'm nervous because I'm religious or have religious ties to it or whatever the sense may be. How would you, not get them to come over, but like make it inviting to them to understand it's not probably what they think it is?
I think if somebody's curious, then get educated, do the research, go on people's social media and find a connection. It's the same way as if you were to get a haircut or get any type of services. Or for me, like I'm covered in tattoo. I don't even know how many I have. When people ask me, I just laugh and walk away. But part of the reason why my tattoos are great or even meaningful or that I love is because I took the time to kind of investigate, go on the website, go on the social media, see if it's the right fit.
Reviews. I mean, we talked about that earlier. You love bags, and like you're not going to buy a bag without it looking what you need to know about it. Just do your work.
Homework. Read the reviews. And it's one of those things that like, I get it, right? I always ask people at the beginning, have you ever had a reading before? And some of them say I had a bad reading in New Orleans. Well, let me just say this. I lived in New Orleans for a month and I moved away. And it's just my energy, right? New Orleans is a great place. I think Salem is a great place. But one of my friends who works in Salem says that October is like a psychic, what did he say? A psychic sweat.
Like drainage?
Yeah, like it's like one after the other.
Oh,
after
psychic
the other.
sweating,
like a lab or something.
Okay. Yeah.
Like labor lab.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so I understand the skeptics. I understand the people that are afraid. I understand people that are very religious. But believe it or not, those readings that I do are the most powerful readings ever. Like I had this very, very religious woman from Arkansas, and she was having fertility issues, and she really wanted to know she was going to have babies. And I said, you're going to have 2. And she's like, there's no way. And I said, just be patient. And I gave her the confidence. I gave her the dates. She had twins. And now she has 3. And now she recommended her mom and her sister. And her first thing was like, I would never, this is my last resort because the doctors are not knowing or telling me what's up. And again, I'm not a fertility specialist.
Yeah.
Okay. I have friends that are better at that than I am. But I'm here to say, like, don't be afraid.
Yeah, you'll be blown away what you can discover with an open mind and an open heart. And obviously, there's a whole other thing going on besides what we see, and feel right here. Okay. Well, just to be a little bit more fun before we end here shortly, who do you follow on Instagram or TikTok for your inspiration outside of work?
I would say there's so many. I love podcasts, and obviously we're on one, so I prefer podcasts over like other things. Yeah. And I would say Chani Nichols.
Okay.
She's a big astrologer, and I really love her work. I know you and I share a common interest of the master, right? Of law of attraction and manifestation. So a bunch of YouTube artists, and my journey is still growing, right? Like I'm still learning. So
absolutely,
whenever there's someone who hasn't been doing it as much or has a different perspective, I'm very engaged and interested in learning their perspective. So I do spend a lot of time on the internet just scrolling, just because
who doesn't?
Because I'm just curious. I'm just like, I want to learn this and I want to know about that. And I think all the things from human design and numerology, I mean, I follow all of them.
Same. I'm in the same algorithm as you are right now. All right, you clearly live a Zen life, but what are some things you like to do for fun that aren't so Zen? Like when you just decide like, hey, I'm going to, not, it's always a part of you. I'm not saying that you like flip a switch and you're someone else, but like when you're not, reading and intuitive and yoga and all the things that you do and put so much good energy towards, what do you like to do when you're not, and what do you do for fun?
Well, it's interesting because what I like to do is still Zenful. Yes. I like to just disconnect. I like to rent a tiny home in the middle of the woods and do nothing but read and hike and write. I am an artist by nature. I have a fine art degree in painting. I like to paint. I like to do anything creative and artistic. And I also love to go to concerts. Since, my age, I don't go out late night, but every now and then you'll see me like dancing, at clubs or something.
I would love to see that, honestly. And we live in obviously a big music city. So now, all right, we're almost there. What is your I'm ending this season with a fun little way to end it. Okay. Obviously, what is your girl bye like moment in what you do or kind of how you're feeling with whatever right now? What is your girl bye? And then what is your like, yes, queen?
Okay, yeah, my girl bye is matching people's energy. Not going to do it. If you're at a low vibration, if you're coming at me, I mean, I've had a lot of really
Absolutely.
Right. I've had a lot of bad situations where I was doing readings publicly and people were throwing things, calling me names. I had someone spit on me once. And so I'm not going to allow that to disrupt my peace. Okay. I'm just going to say, wow, that was really uncalled for, and just leave it at that. There's no
better
reason.
You than me, because I'm the kind of scrappy, person that will say something and do something. So I need to take a page out of your book. But
well, I will say I'm a fiery Latina and I'm a Libra. And so they say if there's anything that's disrupting my peace and my, I don't know, my balance, that, everything's going to burn. And part of it is true, but I've learned to work with that.
Okay. And that's a great one. What is your yes queen?
My yes queen moment is when I achieve really big goals that make me feel uncomfortable. My husband likes to say, oh gosh, new month, new project. And he's like, and I do this to myself because I'm like, I just want to get nervous. I just want to do something that I've never done or that is hella scary. And I just want to accomplish it. I don't know. It's for my own personal joy.
Oh, I love that. Jason would probably honestly say the same thing to me. New month, new project. He's like, can we just like stick to one or finish one or da-da-da-da-da?
Right.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much. Can you tell the people where they can find you, how they can connect and contact you through all the amazing services and things you offer? Let them have it.
You can find me on Instagram at Snowy Rodeo, SNOWYRODEO. Facebook as well, Snowy Rodeo Tarot. My website is Psychic Yoga and Sound, snowyrodeotarot.com. And one last thing, please, 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 if you've enjoyed this,
oh yes,
and also have the time, vote for me in Austin Chronicles website. It's only going to go on until May 19th, so we have a couple days left to wrap it up.
Please, 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 please vote for my girl Snowy. Help her get to become the #1 tarot card reader in Austin for 2025. But that's it. Thank you guys. Have a great day. And don't forget to keep Austin queered.